My name is Lena Prescott, 32 years old. The anonymous email arrives 2 weeks before Christmas, sliding into my inbox like a tiny digital landmine. My phone buzzes against the scratched laminate of my kitchen counter, screen lighting up in the dim yellow of my apartment. Unknown sender. Subject: they're using you. My first instinct is to swipe left and delete it. Probably spam. A phishing attempt. Maybe another click here to claim your prize trap. But my finger stalls an inch above the glass. Call it instinct. Call it paranoia. Call it what it really is. 32 years of waiting for the other shoe to drop. I tap it open. There's no text, no scammy link, no "Dear valued customer," just a single video attachment. My thumb hovers for a breath, then I hit play. The screen fills with my parents' living room, the one with the gray sectional and the huge stone fireplace. The house I pay the mortgage on every month from my practical little salary. The camera angle is slightly crooked, like someone is holding their phone low, pretending not to record. My father, Gideon, lounges in his leather recliner, the one I bought him last Father's Day on a 24-month payment plan. My mother, Meryl, perches on the arm of the sofa, a glass of red wine dangling between manicured fingers. And there's my brother, Corbin, sprawled across the couch like he owns it. He hasn't paid for anything in that room, or anywhere else. 25 years old, and not a single bill in his name. They're laughing. Not the polite chuckles they give when I tell them about work, or something mildly funny that happened on the bus. This is real laughter, the unguarded kind, the kind I haven't seen from them in years. She's so, my mother says, rolling her eyes toward the ceiling. Practical, she finishes, and there's bile under the word. They all laugh harder. Seriously, she continues, swirling her wine with theatrical disdain. She's really planning to make us eat her dry turkey on Christmas Eve? Corbin nearly snorts his drink. Oh my God, she has zero taste. He gestures around the room with his glass. Remember that awful painting she bought for the entryway? That abstract mess? God. My stomach tightens. That painting cost $300. I'd walked away from a new winter coat to buy it for Mom's birthday because she'd once pointed at something similar in a magazine and said, "That's the kind of art rich people have." I thought it would make her happy. Hey, my father says, lifting his glass with a smirk I recognize all too well. A toast to Lena's bonus. Can't wait for Aspen. I blink. Aspen? My mind flips through mental files. Plane tickets? Bookings? No, I haven't planned anything. What Aspen trip? I whisper to my empty kitchen. Then Corbin lifts his glass, smirking. Just as long as the workhorse keeps pulling. The room roars. The video blurs as a rush of heat floods my face. My ears ring. My fingers go numb. Workhorse. The word echoes like someone dropped a metal beam down a stairwell inside me. Suddenly, I'm not in my tiny apartment anymore. I'm 25 years old again, sitting at my old desk, fingers hovering over the confirm booking button on a travel site. 2 weeks in Italy, Florence, Rome, Tuscany. A trip I'd dreamed about since college. A trip I'd finally saved for, pinched lunches, skipped nights out, extra shifts. My phone lit up that night too. "Mom," I'd answered, smiling because she rarely called just to talk. Her voice had been tight, panicked. "Lena, honey, it's Corbin. He wrecked another car. The insurance won't cover it. We don't know what to do." My gaze had dropped to the screen. 14 days in Italy, non-refundable after midnight. "How much do you need?" I'd heard myself say, even as something in me crumpled. 5,000, she'd breathed. "You're the only one we can count on. What would we do without you?" What would we do without you? I'd canceled the booking, transferred the money, filed away the ache as someday. Back in the present, the memory snaps like a brittle twig. The video keeps playing. They've moved on to their Christmas lists now. What they expect from me this year. "A new watch," Dad says, tapping his bare wrist. "Something nice. I saw one in the new Rolex catalog." "A purse," Mom sighs. "That one from the boutique downtown. Red leather. Classic. Not like that cheap thing she gave me last year." "She'll want to get me something big," Corbin says, "to show she supports my art. I'm thinking a high-end sound system for my studio. If I'm going to make an album, I need real equipment." I stare at my phone. The pain isn't the dull, familiar ache I've carried for years. It's something else. Cold. Clear. Sharp enough to cut through fog I didn't realize I was living in. I look around my apartment, really look. The threadbare sofa I've had since college. The mismatched thrift store lamp. The kitchen with its chipped counters and appliances from the early 90s, bare walls where I've told myself I don't need art. The shoes by the door with worn soles. A cage I built, brick by brick, sacrifice by sacrifice. My phone buzzes again, a text from my mother. Mom, don't forget to pick up that nice bourbon your father likes for Christmas Eve dinner. The expensive one. Love you. I set the phone face down on the counter. My hands aren't shaking anymore. This, I whisper into the silence, is the end. The words don't feel dramatic. They feel like gravity, like naming something that already exists. For 7 years, I've been the family ATM, the emergency hotline, the dutiful daughter, the responsible one, the workhorse. No more. I pick up the phone again. Hit replay. This time I watch differently. Not as the hurt daughter, but as an investigator. Dad in the recliner, laughing about Aspen. Mom rolling her eyes over my dry turkey. Corbin talking about art supplies. I rewind. Play it again. There, I murmur, tapping the screen. Corbin leans back on the couch, his feet, my God, actually up on Mom's coffee table, the one I helped her pick out last year. She just gave me $1,000 for art supplies last week, he brags. I used it to buy this 8K TV. He jerks his thumb off camera. They all laugh. That $1,000 for art supplies came from my last paycheck. He'd told me it was for canvases, paints, gallery fees. This is my shot, Lena. I can't blow it. I'd skipped lunch for 2 weeks to make sure his transfer cleared. This isn't just emotional betrayal. This is theft. I paused the video on his face, entitled, Smug, Unbothered. 2 antagonists and their apprentice. Merrill, the guilt architect. Gideon, the king who never worked a full year straight, but somehow deserves a $50,000 truck. Corbin, the prince who learned that the kingdom exists to cushion his fall. I set the phone down. The kitchen clock ticks loudly in the silence. 11:42 p.m. The night feels different now, sharper, as if someone twisted the focus dial on my entire life. My laptop sits on the coffee table, the screen glowing sleepily. I walk over, flip it open, and log into my bank account. There it is, a notification blinking at the top. Year-end bonus deposit. Pending. $127,000. I stare at the number. For the first time in my adult life, my first thought isn't how many problems can I solve with this. It's one clean, revolutionary word. Mine. Not their house payment. Not Corbin's car repair. Not Dad's truck. Not Mom's club dues. Mine. I pick up my phone and scroll to my boss's contact. It rings twice. Lena? Diane's voice comes through, alert even at this hour. Everything okay? I need to take my PTO, I say. My voice sounds unfamiliar to my own ears. Steady, sure. All 3 weeks, starting tomorrow. A pause. What about the Kessler account, she asks. You just closed it today. Congratulations, by the way. It's done, I say. Contract signed, files uploaded. I'll be back before the quarterly meeting. Diane is quiet for a beat. Then, you've earned a break. I'll process it in the morning. Thank you, I say. When we hang up, I open a new browser tab. 20 minutes later, I have a first-class ticket booked to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Departure, 10 a.m. A suite at Amangani confirmed. View of the Tetons. Heated infinity pool. Spa. I've spent years sending money to zip codes I never saw. This time, I'm sending myself. Next comes the lockdown. I log into my bank's autopay section and start canceling. $2,500, my parents' mortgage. $700, Dad's truck payment. $500, Mom's country club dues. $1,000, Corbin's art allowance. Each confirmation screen feels like a small exhale. I change every password, bank, email, social media, Amazon. Turn on 2-factor authentication for all of them. My phone buzzes with verification codes as I systematically reclaim my digital life. Then I open my email and type, to Building Management. Subject, rekey request. Due to security concerns, please rekey apartment 12B immediately. I'll cover all associated costs. Lena Prescott. I hit send. The clock now reads 1:27 a.m. One last thing. I call Elite Catering, where I'd placed an $1,800 order for Christmas Eve dinner. Elite Catering, after-hours service, a tired voice answers. How can I help you? This is Lena Prescott, I say. I need to change the delivery address for my December 24th order. Of course, Ms. Prescott. What's the new address? Fire Station number 5 on Madison Avenue, I say. Please include a note. Happy holidays to our local heroes. There's a pause. That's very generous. We'll take care of it. Thank you, I reply. I hang up. walk to my bedroom window, look out at the city lights flickering against the December sky. For 7 years, I've poured my life into a bottomless pit and called it love. I've let myself believe that being the workhorse was noble, holy even. Now the word feels like a broken harness slipping off my shoulders. My phone buzzes once more. Mom, don't forget we need that check for the roof repair by Friday. Love you. I set the phone on the nightstand. Turn on Do Not Disturb. Open my suitcase and start packing. In the morning, I'll be on a plane heading west. For the first time in my life, the only person I'll be responsible for is me. The workhorse is leaving the barn. The next morning, I rolled my suitcase through the airport, still wrapped in the quiet, icy calm that had settled over me the night before. It wasn't anger anymore. It wasn't grief. It was a clarity so sharp it felt physical. Even the TSA agent noticed my expression and did a double take. By noon, I was 20,000 feet above the ground, champagne bubbling in a glass I didn't have to justify buying. My mind should have been racing, but instead I felt strangely empty in a way that made space for something new. When the plane landed in Jackson Hole, the world outside the window looked unreal. Snow-covered mountains pierced a sky so blue it felt painted. The air that hit my face when I stepped outside was cold enough to sting, but it woke every cell in my body like a slap from reality. This was real. I had left. A black SUV from Amangani met me curbside. The driver, polite, quiet, offered bottled water and blankets, but I barely heard him. I watched the Tetons rise higher and higher as we climbed the winding road to the resort. The lobby welcomed me with warm cedar, soft lighting, and the low crackle of a fire. It smelled like pine and something expensive. A concierge in a charcoal suit smiled as if he already knew my story. "Welcome, Ms. Prescott. Your suite is ready." Suite. Not pull-out couch, not secondhand mattress, not whatever I inherited after someone else in the family upgraded. Mine. When the door swung open, I actually stopped breathing for a moment. Floor-to-ceiling windows opened onto the mountains. A fireplace roared across from a king-size bed draped in white linens. A stone bathtub sat in the corner, big enough to drown my old apartment in. It looked like the life I never allowed myself to imagine. A life without strings. A life without being needed like a resource. I set my suitcase down and laughed. A real laugh. Loud, startled, almost hysterical. For once, no one could ask me for anything. The first 2 days felt like emerging from underwater. I slept, really slept, for the first time in months. I woke when I wanted, ate when I wanted, walked the resort trails with snow crunching softly beneath my boots. I booked a massage at the spa without calculating how many shifts it equaled. I read an entire book by the fire without interruptions. I took long baths while snow flurries tapped against the window. And for the first time in my adult life, my phone was truly off. No texts, no emergencies, no guilt, just silence, and the slow, almost frightening realization that I liked who I was becoming. Christmas Eve arrived with a fresh layer of powder blanketing the valley. The resort decorated with minimalist elegance, pine garlands, warm lights, cinnamon drifting through the air. I spent the afternoon floating in the heated infinity pool, watching steam rise around me as snowflakes landed on my eyelashes and melted instantly. At 6 p.m., the exact time I usually served Christmas dinner, I sat on a lounge chair, wrapped in a thick robe, sipping mulled wine. That's when I finally turned my phone on. It vibrated violently, as if waking from a coma. I didn't check messages, not yet. I opened the Ring camera app. There they were, standing outside my apartment door. Mom in the cashmere coat I bought her last year. Dad stomping his feet, irritation clouding his breath. Corbin leaning against the railing like a sulking child. Mom rang the doorbell, once, twice, and all. Dad started pounding. "Where is she?" he barked, voice muffled through the camera. Corbin checked his phone. "She's ignoring us." Mom's voice pitched into her signature panic tone. "What if something happened to her? We should call the police." Corbin snorted. "She's not dead. She's being dramatic." I took a slow sip of mulled wine. The heat slid through me like satisfaction. For the first time, I wasn't inside the chaos. I was watching it from the outside, like a documentary about endangered entitlement. They tried calling 12 times. They tried texting. "Where are you? This isn't funny. We need the roof money. Call us now." I watched them pace, argue, turn on each other. Dad tried the handle again. "She must be inside. Why isn't she answering?" Mom's eyes filled with tears. Perfectly placed. Perfectly dramatic. "She wouldn't do this to us." "Oh, but she would," I murmured. Corbin suddenly spotted the catering delivery slip on the floor. "What's that? Where's the food?" Mom picked it up, reading aloud. "Delivery, fire station number 5. Her voice cracked. Even through the tiny camera lens, I saw the exact second their fantasy shattered. "Dad, what the hell is going on?" "Mom, did she give away our dinner?" Corbin, "Oh my God." My phone buzzed in my hand. Christmas greetings from the fire station. "Thank you for feeding our whole team tonight. Merry Christmas." I smiled. Then, when I knew I had their full attention, I opened the family group chat and sent the video. The one of them mocking me, laughing about my bonus, calling me a workhorse, followed by a single line. "Enjoy Aspen. P.S. All auto payments stopped 2 weeks ago. Good luck." On the camera feed, I watched their faces as the notification chimed. Mom gasped, hand flying to her mouth. Dad went rigid. Corbin stepped backward like he'd been slapped. She knows," Mom whispered. Dad looked around the hallway like the building was collapsing. "Who sent this to her?" Corbin sank onto the doormat. "She's gone." The words hung in the cold December air. Final. True. She's gone. I let the scene play a moment longer. Then I closed the app, powered down my phone, and ordered room service. Christmas Eve dinner tasted like freedom. 2 days after Christmas, when my plane touched down and the wheels skidded against the runway, I felt something inside me shift, something I didn't have words for yet, a kind of groundedness, a kind of detachment, like I'd stepped out of a role I had been trapped in my entire adult life. Back home, the winter air bit hard at my cheeks as I walked into my apartment building. The leasing agent greeted me with a tight smile, sliding papers across her desk. "All done, Ms. Prescott. Your apartment has been rekeyed. Only you have access now." I tucked the cold new key into my palm. It was heavier than it should have been. Just a piece of metal, and yet it felt symbolic, like reclaiming my own door, my own life. My phone buzzed with its 44th missed call since I'd landed that morning, but I flipped it face down in my purse. For the past 10 days, I'd been deleting missed calls and messages one by one, like pulling weeds from an overgrown garden. "Is everything all right?" the leasing agent asked gently. "Everything," I said, smiling in a way that felt startlingly honest, "is perfect." On the drive to work, I turned on the radio and let the city unfold around me. Buildings, traffic, people rushing through their own stories. All of it looked somehow cleaner, more separate, as if I had finally stepped out of the fog I'd been living in. At the office, my boss Diane welcomed me back with a simple nod. "No need to justify the time away," she said. "You closed Kessler. You've earned some quiet." I nearly laughed. Quiet. It felt like the rarest luxury of all. During the next 10 days, I kept my phone on Do Not Disturb. I poured myself into work, not because I needed approval, but because I finally had space to focus without a constant background hum of someone else's crisis. I exceeded my targets before the month ended. I slept. I cooked meals just for myself. I browsed furniture sites at night, imagining colors and textures for a real home, not the cramped rental I'd convinced myself was all I deserved. And then, right when the calm began to settle, the first counterattack came. I was walking to my car in the underground garage when a soft voice echoed in the concrete cavern. "Rosalie?" I tensed. No one called me that except family. I turned. Aunt Jessica stepped out from behind a pillar, wrapped in a pristine Burberry coat, her gray hair styled to surgical precision. Her presence in this dim garage felt wrong, like an expensive vase placed in a storage unit. "Aunt Jessica," I said, keeping my tone neutral, "this is unexpected." Her heels clicked briskly toward me. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, reaching for my hands with feigned warmth. "Your mother is simply devastated. She hasn't slept in weeks." I said nothing. "The family is falling apart," Jessica whispered, fingers clasping dramatically at her chest. "Your father's truck was repossessed. They might lose the house. And Corbin—" She paused, shaking her head. "He may have to move back in with them. It's unthinkable." It wasn't unthinkable. It was predictable. The old me would have folded instantly, guilt blooming inside me like a bruise. The old me would have apologized, promised to send money, blamed myself for daring to take 3 weeks of peace. But that version of me was dead in the snow outside Amangani. "I understand this is difficult for everyone," I said gently, but firmly. Her eyes lit up hope, victory, leverage. "But," I continued, "this is a private matter, and it is handled." Her jaw slackened. She hadn't expected boundaries. Certainly not from me. "Rosalie, you need to be the bigger person," she insisted. "Family is everything." "No," I said softly. "Self-respect is." Her face went slack in stunned silence. I opened my car door, smiled politely. I hope you have a wonderful day. I drove off while she stared after me, clutching her designer coat like armor. 3 days later came the next unexpected turn. This one not an attack, but something else entirely. A text from an unknown number. Hi, Lena. This is Marina. Can we meet? I was the one who sent the video. I stared at the message for a full minute. We agreed to meet at a quiet coffee shop mid-morning. When she walked in, she looked normal. Pretty, yes, but human. Real. No drama, no emotional theatrics. A contrast to the Prescott script I'd grown up with. Marina sat across from me, tracing the rim of her latte. I couldn't stay silent, she said. I heard them laughing about you. Your mom called you the easiest one to control, so I hit record. My breath caught, but not from pain, from validation. You broke up with Corbin? I asked. She nodded. I realized he's just like them, a user. Everything is someone else's responsibility. And you sent me the video because... Marina shrugged, simple, honest. Because you deserve to know the truth, because you're not crazy, and because watching them hurt you made me sick. Emotion prickled behind my ribs. Thank you, I whispered. You changed everything. She smiled a soft, knowing smile. You'd have figured it out eventually. Across the table, I saw the outline of a new friendship forming. One based not on blood or obligation, but truth. After she left, I took the long way home. The sun glinted off the metal sign at the gated community I'd been eyeing for weeks. Oakwood Estates, tall fences, security patrols, a gate between me and every chaos I'd ever outgrown. I parked in front of the sales office, my heart hammered. I walked inside. A week later, the mortgage papers were signed. This time, I wasn't buying a home to save anyone. I was buying a home to save myself. 3 months after closing on my new home, I stood in the foyer arranging a mosaic vase on the entry table. Sunlight streamed in through tall windows and made the blue tiles sparkle. The vase was extravagant, impractical, and 100% mine. No one else had a say. No one else needed to. The painting above it, abstract crimson and gold like an Italian sunset, was another indulgence. A promise I'd made to myself years ago. A promise I was finally ready to keep. My phone pinged. Reminder, book Italy. I smiled. I would. Soon. For now, I had boxes to unpack, shelves to fill, walls to decorate, a home to claim. Not a space inherited from my family's demands or shaped around their emergencies. Just a place built around me. That's when the doorbell chimed. I paused, slowly turned toward the security monitor mounted on the wall. The gate camera showed a familiar figure standing outside the call box, hair windblown, mascara smudged, coat pulled tight around her shivering frame. Meryl, my mother. She jabbed the call button over and over. Her voice crackled through the speaker system. Rosalie, Lena, please. Her breath hitched. Your father is sick. We need you. It's serious. 6 months ago, those words would have shattered me. 6 months ago, I would have grabbed my keys, packed an overnight bag, emptied my savings if necessary. 6 months ago, I still believed them. But Gideon was never too sick to berate me. Never too sick to smoke cigars on the porch. Never too sick to laugh at me behind my back. Now, even through the grainy video feed, I could see it clearly. This wasn't fear, it was desperation. Another tactic, another performance, another last-ditch attempt to yank the old leash around my neck. I watched her for a few moments, her sobs curving upward into familiar theatrics. She hadn't even bothered to give a diagnosis. Not a condition, not a symptom. Just a vague crisis she thought would trigger the old reflex. My finger hovered over the intercom button. There was a time when I would have asked for proof, for details, for a chance to help. Now I felt nothing. No guilt, no panic, no shame, just a quiet recognition. The workhorse was no longer in the barn. The gatekeeper lived here now. I tapped the dismiss button. The camera feed blinked off. Silence poured into the room like clean air. A few minutes later, I finished placing my wine glasses in the cabinet. Crystal glasses I'd chosen myself, not the mismatched set I'd collected over the years. I opened a bottle of Chianti I'd been saving and poured a slow, generous glass. The ruby liquid caught the afternoon sunlight, turning the room gold. I raised the glass to my reflection in the window. To freedom, I whispered. My phone chimed again. This time, it wasn't the gate. It was Marina. Marina, glad you held your boundaries. They don't deserve access to you. A smile tugged at my mouth. Me, thank you for everything. See you soon. Her message, simple and honest, reminded me of a truth I'd forgotten. Family doesn't always share your blood. Sometimes it shares your courage. 2 weeks later, I was sitting at my desk at work when Jenna, one of our newer reps, slipped into the chair across from me. Her face carried that same tight, pinched stress I used to see in the mirror. "You okay?" I asked. She sighed. "My sister's kid needs braces. She asked if I could help with the 5,000. Said I'm the only one she can count on. And now," her voice cracked, "I feel guilty saying no, but I can't afford it. I really can't." I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "Jenna," I said gently, "don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm." She blinked, surprised. I continued, "Your value isn't measured by what you sacrifice, and someone who loves you won't demand that you burn for them." Tears welled in her eyes. "How did you learn that?" I smiled softly, the hardest way possible. She nodded slowly, absorbing it. In helping her, I realized something. The lessons I learned weren't just for me. They were for anyone who has ever been drained dry by people who confuse love with entitlement. The morning of my flight to Italy came quickly. I zipped my suitcase closed, light this time. No extra clothes. Just in case someone needs something. No emergency cash tucked into envelopes. No fear-filled checklist of responsibilities. Everything I needed, nothing I didn't. I walked downstairs through my house, my home, and set the security system. The soft beep, beep, beep echoed like a heartbeat I finally recognized as mine. The door closed behind me with a satisfying click. Outside, the sun was just beginning to climb over the treetops. Warm light touched my face as I loaded my suitcase into the car. No calls awaited me, no demands, no guilt. Just the open road, the airport, and a long-needed flight to Rome. The trip I canceled 7 years ago, the dreams I kept postponing for other people, the life I almost forgot I was allowed to want. I slid behind the wheel, took a deep breath, and smiled. The workhorse had been released long ago, but this moment, this was her first gallop into a life she chose. As I drove toward the airport, the sunrise spreading pink and gold across the sky, I whispered the final truth aloud. This journey is finally mine.